Good afternoon, students. Are you hearing my voice? Nagaraju? Are you hearing my voice? Okay, right. So, yesterday we completed uh, particularly things about the Sanskritization and the Brahmanization. Okay, so how the Sanskritization and Brahmanization aware the Dalit and how these Dalit imitate the traditions and lifestyle of the upper class. And the Dalits, how they acted as a, 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 a person from the upper class or caste. Okay, so that is also a important thing how the Dalit they themselves as aware. Okay, so today we're going to see what are other things which mobilized or aware these Dalit towards their rights. Okay, so the fight of the Dalit towards their rights are nothing but Dalit movement. Okay, so the Dalit movement started from various sections of the lower classes, and these sections challenging the unequal society due to the various reasons. Some classes they themselves aware, some communities they were mobilized by the various reformers, some communities aware with the Western education and English language, and some of the people from these lower sections they were aware with uh, a with a with a Hindu structure, particularly with the help of the Bhakti movement and the other Hindu religious things. Okay, you'll see what are those things, what are various social and religious reform organizations. You are well aware that Arya Samaj is one of the important religious organization which mobilized these lower class Dalit towards their rights. And another one is the Brahma Samaj. Okay, so Brahma Samaj also an important organization which mobilized. Okay, so apart from these, many Dalit organizations also aware these Dalits towards their rights. Okay, so these may be uh, uh, the awareness of the Dalits may be happened in various ways. Okay, so we'll see what are the which phases basically in which phases basically these Dalits were aware. Okay, so you'll see the certain initial things which are taken place in the British India firstly. Okay, so I will read out certain things and I will explain later. Okay, so in spite of several limitations, people in India had organized numerous types of movements against certain evils in society, relations of exploitation and for equality, liberty and justice. There is a long history of movements in India, long history of Dalit movements in India, ranging from the Bhakti movement, which are taken place in between 12th and 17th centuries, to the present day Dalit movement, including social reform movement of 18th and 19th centuries, the movement for national freedom of 20th century, and numerous other types of movements in the contemporary period. Okay, so all these movements are started in a certain phases, but these movements also including the various section of the society, and particularly these people from the lower classes also participated in these movements. Okay, so basically the Bhakti movement spread throughout the country and upheld equality before God. Okay, so it mobilized people about human dignity and social equality. The major goal of the reform movement was to mobilize the people and create public opinion to bring about certain reforms in the Hindu social system and strive for the removal of socio-religious disabilities of lower caste, particularly. So the movement for wresting political power from the British colonial rule in India and other movements involving different social groups, castes and communities raised among other the fundamental questions, the principle of equality. Most of these movements were sectional movements and aimed at their bringing about some reforms in prevailing customs and practices or at insisting on better access to available resources and opportunities. Okay, so Gandhi and Ambedkar succeeded in imparting a qualitatively different dimensions to these movements. The early movements took place at a juncture when the Indian society was at tradition ridden and relatively less exposed to outside influences. Leadership were largely drawn from the better off families of upper caste and classes. The impact of such leadership was not less commendatory in view of prevailing the orientations of society in general and of their caste and classes in particular. Prior to the emergence of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar as the spokesman of untouchables, and the social terrain in India had, however, been made sensitive to flight of the untouchables. Okay, we'll see the pre-Ambedkarite Dalit movement. Okay, so what are the important incidents taken place, and who are the important people who fight for the upliftment of these Dalit before the entry of Ambedkar. Okay, so we'll see the pre-Ambedkarite movement, pre-Ambedkarite Dalit movement. Okay, so among them, before the Ambedkar, the important movement which started in the Maratha land is nothing but the Mahar movement. Okay, so with the Mahar movement only, Ambedkar became a leader and later a pioneer in under Dalit movement. Okay, so we'll see how this Mahar movement created awareness among the Dalits in India. Okay, so the history of Mahar movement in Maharashtra was formulated over the years, an ideology and program distinctive to it. The Mahars carried out their struggle gradually but persistently, thereby imparting to themselves a distinctive consciousness of their own. The efforts of some of leading personalities of this movement and the various forces that shaped their rich, dynamic, creative thinking helped in evolving a clear perspective of this movement. The British, having given the Mahas a chance to work in the army, provided them also education and better employment opportunities. Gopal Baba Walangakar, the retired Mahar army officer, was the first to speak up for the Mahas in 1890. It was the beginning of articulate protest among the Mahas. In its wake, a Bombay newspaper, Hindu Prakash, reported that disadvantaged are raising their voice. It also quoted that this is a protest against the Hindu society which practices inequality on caste lines. The pre-Ambedkar Mahar movement also saw the emergence of spokesman in the name Sivaram Janaka Kamble from Pune by 1910. Kamble too had acquired English education and this had helped him to represent the Mahars. Another personality is nothing but Kisan Fagozi Barode. Okay, so Kisan Fagozi Barode was another Mahar leader from Nagapur who upheld the principles of self-respect, individuality and freedom for the Mahas and monks. He went around Maharashtra preaching the same. He urged for social transformation within Hinduism so that the exploited will not look for an alternative religion. He founded the Sanmarg Bodhak Nirashit Samaj on 1st October 1903 in Mopla, where he was born. The Samaj strive hard formulating principles of the right path for the Mahas. Both these leaders took a great deal of interest in organizing and uniting the Mahas and spreading the ideals of freedom and equality among them. They had thus prepared the groundwork which helped the later Dalit leaders to take up the Dalit issues such more systematically. This is true in the case of what Dr. B.R. Ambedkar eventually did. Dalit writers also began to do a different kind of work by not only publishing but also getting into the world of writing, which was so far denied to them. However, their effort at identity formation, Dalit writers had begun to trace their linkages with low caste saint poets of Bhakti movement, who had taken deep roots in Maharashtra some 300 years ago. The two prominent poets in this regard were Namadev, was simply a tailor by caste, Namadev a Daji, okay, by caste, and Choka Mela, an untouchable Mahar. The early Mahar writers as well as the contemporary ones often recall the poetic imagination of Choka Mela and others. The saint poets like Choka Mela, belonging to lower social order, had demonstrated the courage to raise their voice against hierarchy and cultural practice of untouchability. This trend in the past was now deployed by the Dalit writers as a support base for the modern Dalit movement at one level, and at another level, through their writings, they tried to demonstrate the kind of opposition caste society encountered in Indian history. Okay, so when you see the Bhakti and Adi Hindu movement, how the Bhakti and Adi Hindu movement has created certain consciousness among the Dalit movement. Okay, so it is significant that Bhakti re-emerged in the 20th century, essentially as a religious practice of the untouchables. Okay, you are well aware that Bhakti movement which has taken place particularly in the medieval India. Okay, so nearly 1 or 2 centuries which has prolonged. After the medieval India, in the modern period, particularly during the British colonial period, again the concept of bhakti has started. Okay, so in the name of bhakti, many movements have started in India. Adi Hindu movement, Adi Dravida movement, you are well aware those. So this is only happened with the help of the bhakti. So this is we call as the bhakti movement which has taken place in the modern time. Okay, so this was a departure from the medieval bhakti, which had flourished among religious cults or sects not identified with any particular caste group. even though lower caste had been the prominent adherents. This had continued to be the case until the end of the 19th century. In contrast, during the 20th century, Bhakti was resurrected as a caste-based religious expression solely of the untouchables. This newly emerged expression of Bhakti was an egalitarian religion exclusive to the untouchables, which developed into a religious movement in the early 1920s and argued that Bhakti was a religion of the original inhabitants and rulers of India, the Adi Hindus, from whom the untouchables claimed to be descended. Underlying the argument of Adi Hindu ancestry was the central assertion that social division of labor based on caste status was an imposition forced on Indian society by the Aryan conquerors, who had subjugated the Adi Hindu rulers and made them survival laborers, while Bhakti positioned caste equality. The emerging Adi Hindu ideology constructed a theory of the ancient racial origin of untouchables in order to attack the links between low caste status and particular forms of labor. Bhakti revivalism and Adi Hinduism developed within a social context of urbanization. The changing significance of caste distinctions for the untouchables in towns and their attempts at self-assertion. However, you may also say that the growing familiarity of the untouchables, especially of the newly literate sections among them, with the ideas preached by religious reformist groups like Arya Samaj and Brahma Samaj and other. Arya Samaj is a religious reform movement, but Brahma Samaj is somewhat different. Okay, so Brahma Samaj is non-religious reform. Okay, so because Brahma Samaj is opposed the religious aspects, where the Arya Samaj is supported certain religious aspects, because the Arya Samaj mainly seeking certain revivalism and Hinduism in the Hindu religion. Okay, so those who converted from the Hinduism to other religions, again this Arya Samaj again tried to reconvert those converted converts into other religions again to the Hinduism. Okay, so you are well aware that the movement called as the Suddhi movement. Okay, so by the Suddhi movement, Arya Samaj urged the converts to the other religions and urged to back to the Hindu religion. Okay, and the main slogan also given by the Dayanand Saraswati, who was the founder of Arya Samaj, is "Go back to Vedas." Okay, so within the Vedas only, he want to highlight the revivalism within the Hinduism. With that revivalism, he want to reform the Hindu society, basically. Okay, that is the main thing here. And another one is the Christian missionaries. Okay, so the evangelical service by these Christian missionaries also important aspects which mobilized these untouchables or the lower class sections in Indian society. Okay, so the Arya Samaj and Christian missionaries, as well as deliberations about the representation of caste and religious communities in government and political institutions, accelerated the development of urban low caste social movements from the 1920s. Okay, so the Adi Hindu ideology was formulated in 1920s by a new generation of literate untouchables. Their growing interest in Bhakti religion had generated among the untouchables a need for literacy in order to acquaint themselves with the religious scriptures and the writings of the Gurus. Some untouchables had acquired elementary literacy from the Christian missionaries in cantonments or civil stations. Bhakti resurgence thus produced a generation of literate untouchables in Uttar Pradesh who emerged to be a leaders and ideologies of Adi Hindu movement. Okay, so we already discussed about these two important personalities in our last classes also. Okay, so those are important. Those the important personalities like Swami Achyutanand, one of the most prominent Adi Hindu leader during the 1920s and 30s, was brought up at a military cantonment where his father worked and later settled in Kanpur. He had been taught by missionaries and had gained an extensive knowledge of religious texts. Another one is the Ramcharan, an Adi Hindu leader of Lucknow, was born in a slum at Gwaltoli in Kanpur but became a graduate in law. By 1910, Achyutanand and Ramcharan were concerned with the issues of caste uplift. They had link with Arya Samaj, which had promised to facilitate the social uplift of lower caste, had set up schools for them, and had hoped the untouchables would have their place in Hinduism or Hindu caste hierarchy through purification or Shuddhi. In early 1920s, however, literate Arya Samaj untouchables broke away from the Samaj and put forward the argument that the untouchables were the Adi Hindus, tracing the reasons for the alienation of untouchables from the Arya Samaj. And they were from living Arya Samaj, and they are started certain separate religious movements or reform movements to mobilize these masses their own. Okay, not with the support of RSS. Okay, so the symbol that Samaj usually upheld was the Vedas, which were projected as a ultimate containers of the religious truths. Okay, so this gradually disillusioned the untouchables who had joined the Samaj. Further, the Samaj did not accord them equality of status, even though it admitted lower caste to Hindu hierarchy through Shuddhi. The distinction between high caste Hindus and the purified low caste had persisted in its midst. Okay, there is certain conflict has taken place between the lower class, the purified lower class. Okay, those who again came back to the Hinduism from the other converts into the Islam or any other Buddhism or like that. So already who are continuing in the Arya Samaj are who are followers of the Shuddhi movement from the higher sections or higher class of Hindu society had certain conflicts has taken place. Okay, so between the higher sections and the lower classes. Okay, soon after their rift with the Arya Samaj in early 1920s, the untouchable leaders began to propagate the concept of an Adi Hindu original race and Bhakti as their separate pre-Aryan religion. A book entitled Mool Bharatvashi or Arya, original inhabitants of India and Aryans, written by Swami Bodhanand, which was published. The Kumbh Mela at Allahabad in 1828 and 29 saw the most stringent proclamation of Hinduism. At the Mela, a Mahotsav or great festival of all Adi Hindu Bhakti, Sant Panths, nothing but the devotional sects, was held, in which Kabir Panthi, Rai Dasi, and Shivanarayani groups participated. By 1924, local Adi Hindu Sabhas, certain associations, had been organized in Kanpur, Lucknow, Benares, and Allahabad to spread the message of Adi Hinduism. The initiative beginning taken by literate untouchables and bhakti religious preachers. Each sabha had its pracharaks and upadeshaks modeled on Christian missionaries and Arya Samaj's preachers who regularly visited untouchable neighborhoods. Okay, so these are certain organizations which the started by certain lower class reformers who had certain relation with the Arya Samaj. Okay, so the emphasis of Adi Hindu movement was not, however, on a formal organization, but on shared religious sympathy between Adi Hindu preachers and local untouchable groups who practiced bhakti. The informal nature of links between Apex Adi Hindu organizations in the town, local caste groups in neighboring woods, contributed to the strength and the spread of the movement. The Adi Hindu ideology attracted the mass of the untouchables and was espoused by them, for it provided a historical explanation for the poverty and deprivation of the untouchables and presented a vision of their past power and rights and hopes of regaining such a lost rights. The Adi Hindu leaders were, in fact, providing an ideology to a respective audience, which was already seeking means to claim opportunities and privileges in urban society. Adi Hindu ideology strove to dissociate a low caste status from menial occupations considered as impure. Adi Hinduism challenged the imposition upon untouchables of low social rules, functions, and occupations. In this respect, Adi Hinduism was a direct response to the constraint that untouchables encountered in urban society in achieving economic and social advancement. Its emphasis was to less caste oppressions or exploitation, which might have been chief concern if the movement had emerged in rural areas, and more on literal exclusion, which was directly relevant to the urban untouchables. Okay, so when you see the best example for this, how the Adi Hindu movement which confined to the towns and cities. Okay, so in Hyderabad state, the Adi Hindu movement which is started by Bhagireddy Varma, which is only confined to the city of Hyderabad. Okay, so not even entered in a adjoining part of not adjoining rural parts of the Hyderabad. Okay, it's only shown there is shown um, the influence within the urban lower caste. Okay, so to challenge the exclusion of untouchables, the Adi Hindu leaders not only argued for caste equality but also highlighted a view that untouchables had been deprived of their original rights through force and political machinations by the higher caste, and their rights should be restored. Adi Hinduism also proposed the notion that the untouchables were the fast rulers of India. Through such generalized assertions, Adi Hindu leaders attempted to fortify the claims of untouchable to rights and opportunities such as for education or better jobs at jobs to which the urban untouchables were seeking access. But the Adi Hindu leaders did not pose a direct threat to the caste system, even though their conception of it as an instrument for imparting social inequalities implied a critique of ritual hierarchy. The Adi Hindu movement was, in essence, conceived as remained a protest against the attribution of low caste and low no low roles and functions to be to the untouchables by means of a claim that they were not Aryan Hindus. It was not developed into a full-blown and direct attack on the caste system. Okay, so because this Adi Hindu movement only confined to the urban lower classes. So, which cannot bring a mass movement within the mass movement within the Dalit classes. Okay, so it only confined to a a a urban lower classes itself. That too confined to a particular communities particular. Okay. So, however, it was argued that in the caste-based society, individual qualifications and achievements have less significance. Hence, the alternative thinking proposed that Dalits had to strive elevate their collective status by forming organizations and raising the moral and material status of their birth. For a movement of this kind, an organized structure was very important. There was no all India organization to fight for even the issues that were raised and to further make them inclusive. The nature of whatever organization that emerged remained primarily regional or individual biased prior to the emergence of Ambedkar. The Dalit movement found its meaningful journey only after Ambedkar provided a strong base to it. Okay, so before the Ambedkar, no personality who mobilized the untouchable classes to a all over India movement. Okay, so before Ambedkar, many important movements you find, and particularly in Maharashtra, Jyotiba Phule's contribution is a marvelous one. Okay, so he was a great platform for the various movement which has started after the Jyotiba Phule. Okay, so he was a forerunner to the backward and lower class movement in India. Okay, so he was also an inspiration to the Ambedkar. Okay, so but he can't make this movement into a all over Indian movement. Okay, like Ambedkar has done later for the lower classes. Okay, so these are certain things about the reasons for the lower class movement or Dalit movement which has happened before the Ambedkarite movement. And tomorrow we'll see how the Christian missionaries also mobilized these lower classes towards their rights and their rights and how they started their struggle against these upper classes ideology of upper classes. Okay, so this is about my lecture today. You have any doubt regarding this? You may ask now. Nagaraju, are you hearing? Okay, shall I end up my class? Okay, right. I'm going to ending my class.